Do you believe that everything happens for a reason? Well, you should, because it's been shown that people who notice and interpret synchronicities report higher life satisfaction and stronger purpose. But most of us, we ignore these signs. We dismiss them as just coincidences. And by doing that, we stay stuck in the same patterns, same relationships, and the same painful cycles. For years, I kept myself stuck dealing with emotionally unavailable people and in repeated situations where I ended up feeling victimized. I was trying to make better choices, but my brain was on repeat until I finally saw the pattern. I'm Christy, board certified nurse practitioner, health coach, and trauma survivor. This is Trauma Free, where I help you change your mind and change your life just like I did. Today, I'll show you how synchronicities, subconscious cycles, and invisible beliefs shape your reality and how to finally break free using neuroscience, psychology, and awareness. It's been found that your brain isn't trying to show you the truth, but instead, it's trying to keep you alive by forecasting what's going to happen next. This is the foundation of the predictive brain hypothesis that states your brain's primary function isn't to perceive reality as it is, but to predict it. It uses memories, emotional patterns, and past experiences to generate mental shortcuts about what's likely to happen next. This saves energy from processing and unfiltering new data 24/7, which would overwhelm your brain and have it in overdrive. So instead, the brain uses what it already knows to create a model of the world designed just for you. And your brain does this by constantly comparing the incoming information that it receives to its internal predictions. So when your reality doesn't match, you basically get a prediction error, and your brain either corrects the model or it ignores the data to reduce discomfort. For years, I thought I just had bad luck with people. But what was really happening was that I felt drawn to other broken people who were hot and cold, secretly jealous, and altogether not genuine relationships because that felt familiar. My brain had normalized inconsistency as a connection. So reliable and predictable people, they didn't light up my nervous system. They felt boring, not because they were, but because my body wasn't used to peace. It has been shown that individuals with trauma are 3 times more likely to repeat toxic relationship patterns, 2.5 times more likely to experience workplace dysfunction, and more prone to substance use, chronic illnesses, and emotional dysregulation because their predictor model of the world has been shaped by chaos, betrayal, neglect, or abandonment. Trauma wires the brain to expect and unconsciously seek more of the same. So you don't see red flags because to the nervous system, they aren't red. And you don't hear the warning signs because they're drowned out by the louder sound of familiarity. To your brain, what's familiar is safe, even if it's destructive. That's why you might stay in a toxic relationship, a dead end job, or an environment that sucks the life out of you because it's predictable and the brain thrives on being able to foresee what's next. Uncertainty, no matter how great it is encoded as danger to your brain until it has new data to help it make new predictions. You've probably heard of confirmation bias, the brain's tendency to favor information that supports what we already believe. But most people are unaware that we ignore up to 83% of information that contradicts our identity. That's nearly all of it. So if deep down you believe you're unworthy, unlovable, or destined to be alone, your brain will delete compliments, downplay affection, and highlight rejection just to prove itself right. And this isn't self-sabotage, it's self-consistency. Because your brain would rather feel certain about what's next than to be happy. If you're wondering how your patterns get hardwired, there are two major psychological frameworks that explain why you stay stuck even when you want out. The first one, operant conditioning. This theory says what gets rewarded gets repeated. So if you were only praised when you achieved, performed, or pleased others, your nervous system learned that love is conditional. So now as an adult, even small wins can feel threatening because true success or real love comes with risk. And if you've been trained to fear rejection, then almost winning becomes your comfort zone. You may unconsciously believe that if I don't fully succeed, I can't really fail. And the second framework, classical conditioning, this theory is about associations. Your brain links neutral events with emotional outcomes. If your childhood approval was followed by manipulation, or if your creativity was punished, your system might now associate self expression with danger. So if a narcissistic parent criticized your art, your body may now feel tension when you try to create. Have you ever looked back at a situation and asked yourself, how did I miss the red flags? You didn't miss them because you were naive. You missed them because your brain is biased. Not by choice, but by design. Our minds use shortcuts called cognitive heuristics to make quick decisions and save energy. And those shortcuts can lead you straight into the same situations again and again. So let's uncover the biggest psychological biases that filter your reality and how to retrain your brain to see more clearly. Number 1, availability heuristic. This bias says your brain judges what's likely based on what's most memorable, not what's most true. So if your last 3 relationships ended in betrayal, your brain decides love equals pain or all men and women are toxic, even if that's not the full story. This is not pessimism, it's pattern recognition, trying to keep you safe. And this happens because the emotional brain or the amygdala stores intense memories with more weight than the neutral ones. So your brain is pretty much wired to remember the worst because survival depends on it. Number 2, the halo effect. This is the brain's tendency to let one positive trait blind you to harmful ones. You may think that he's confident, so he must be trustworthy, or she's funny, so she must be kind. But charisma is not a character, and fun is not emotional safety. But this happens because we're pattern-seeking creatures. Once the brain finds one good trait, it fills in the blanks with assumptions. This is especially common after trauma, when attention, affection, or chemistry feel like evidence of safety. But often it's just dopamine and old wounds creating a mirage. Number 3, negativity bias. The brain clings to negative experiences like glue and lets positive ones fade away like they never even happened. That's why one argument can ruin your whole day, or why one criticism can drown out a dozen compliments, because it can take up to 5 positive interactions to neutralize just one negative one. You're not just living life, you're also translating it through symbols, signs, triggers, and patterns that echo what's happening inside of you. If you've ever asked, why do I keep meeting the same types of people? Why does the universe keep showing me this number, or this animal, or this phrase? You're not imagining it. You're actually witnessing a conversation between your conscious mind and your unconscious self. So let's explore how the universe and your own psyche speak in patterns, reflections, and coded truths. Carl Jung said everything that irritates us about others can lead us to understanding ourselves. And the mirror principle confirms that people around you act like emotional mirrors. What triggers you in others often reflects disowned, unloved, or unconscious parts of yourself. So if you keep attracting disrespect, ask, where am I tolerating disrespect from myself? Or where am I abandoning my own boundaries just to belong? And the shadow, it's the part of you that you hide, suppress, or deny. Until it's integrated, it often shows up in other people. That's why you might be repelled by someone's arrogance while secretly craving the confidence to speak your own truth, or judge someone's emotional neediness while avoiding your own need to be seen, because we attract what we reject in ourselves. Synchronicities are the phenomenon of when we interpret meaningful coincidences that have no obvious cause but feel deeply personal to us as an individual. That's why they're so difficult to prove. Do you keep seeing the same number, hearing the same phrase from strangers, or seeing the same sign on billboards? Or maybe repeated symbols in dreams or in nature? That's your psyche sending messages through the world around you. And this is good if you notice these things, because people who track synchronicities report higher levels of meaning and life satisfaction. When I started to pay more close attention to my life, I slowed down and I began to notice things more than I had previously. I would be in the car or while in nature or when interacting with a random person, and I would see or hear things in a more meaningful way. I would take what I could from these messages and from these encounters and use it as guidance for me to make better decisions when I was confused about my next steps. For a while, I kept seeing snakes on my walk, and I normally wouldn't. So I knew that that was a sign that I should remain calm through times of uncertainty because I was transforming and becoming a new version of myself. Each time you notice a repeated symbol, like 1111, butterflies, songs, animals, or phrases, make note of it. Then recall what's happening in your life at that time. Over time, these patterns emerge not just from the universe, but from you. Because synchronicities are your subconscious revealing what your conscious mind hasn't yet decoded. People often say, once I started awakening, I couldn't unsee the signs. But that's not a coincidence. That's cognitive science and spiritual symbolism working together. So let's break it down. The Bader-Meinhof phenomenon, or frequency illusion, happens when you learn or focus on something new, and suddenly you see it everywhere because your reticular activating system, or RAS, turns up the volume on what aligns with your beliefs. The RAS is a bundle of neurons in your brainstem that acts like a filter. It decides what's relevant and what can be ignored based on what you believe and what you're emotionally focused on. So when you start healing from people pleasing, or suddenly notice every time someone sets a boundary, or when you stop drinking alcohol, you start to notice how many other people also don't drink because your brain is trying to integrate a new identity into yours. When people experience profound moments of connection, like seeing repeated signs, hearing songs that feel divinely sent to you, or dreaming of symbols, they activate brain regions also linked to spiritual and mystical experiences. So, the same part of your brain that lights up during prayer and meditation also lights up when you recognize symbolic meaning in life. Because making meaning of things isn't wishful thinking, it's a neurochemical event, often accompanied by dopamine release that reinforces the experience. So when you see 11:11 on the clock, it isn't silly. It might be your brain's way of saying, you're awake now, pay attention, and continue on your path. Across cultures, certain archetypes and symbols repeat in dreams, art, and intuition. Why do you think so many people dream of tsunamis before emotional breakthroughs? Or why do snakes appear during personal transformations, like in my case, when I would never see snakes on my walks, and for the so many people who've never even seen one in real life? Because your psyche speaks in symbols, and some of those symbols live in the collective unconscious, which is a shared human language of transformation. In the weeks before leaving my last job, I kept having patients tell me how great I was and saying that they would love to talk with me more and were asking if I offered therapy because I was so great to speak with. This was right before a major emotional turning point in my life, before I left. because the psyche knows when change is on the forefront, even when we don't. Carl Jung said it best: until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it faith. You pay attention, you can see the signs. They were never random, and the patterns were never pointless. Your brain and your soul have always been trying to get your attention. The question is, are you finally ready to see what's been speaking through the noise all along? You don't break cycles with willpower. You break them by rewiring your nervous system, retraining your brain, and creating safer pathways for your body to choose something new. So I'm going to give you the exact tools that will help you interrupt old patterns so you can start predicting new possibilities instead of old painful ones. Number 1, interoceptive training, because the body never lies. Interoception is body awareness, or your ability to sense what's happening inside your body, your heartbeat, your breath, and your gut instincts. Research shows that body-based awareness improves intuitive accuracy by 42%. So your first feeling is often your most honest and correct one. That's why on a test, they say never change your answer. Have you ever had a gut feeling you ignored and later regretted it? Science proves that your body picks up danger and truth before your brain does, but most of us override it daily. So next time something feels familiar but off, like deja vu, stop and ask your body, not your thoughts. This tingling, warmth, or lightness, this aligns, but this tightness, sinking, or clenching feeling, it's a warning, reminding you of past harm. Because your nervous system remembers everything, and interoception turns subtle cues into a warning system, so you can stop replaying old patterns. Number 2, narrative reframing. Become the author, not the victim. Your brain stores experiences as stories, not just memories, and those stories shape your identity. But you can rewrite the story without changing the facts, just by changing the meaning. Instead of saying, I wasted years in toxic love, say I was building discernment. Now I can spot real love with clarity and inner knowing. This uses neuroplasticity to create new neural pathways by reframing your narrative. Number 3, predictive journaling. Train your brain to expect alignment. It has been shown that writing about expected synchronicities increased pattern recognition by 68% because your brain loves prediction. It's always scanning for what it believes is most likely, so use that to your advantage. Each morning, write down, today I'll see a sign about love, clarity, release, or your next steps. And your RAS system will do the rest because you just programmed your brain to see what supports your healing. Number 4, environmental design. Upgrade your space to upgrade your identity because changing your physical environment supports behavioral change. Your nervous system is constantly reading the room and associating your environment with past patterns. So if you want a new identity to take root, your space must feel like the future you, not the former you. So to create a conscious space shift, rearrange your furniture, even just a little. Remove objects tied to the past version of yourself and add one item that represents your new chapter, like a candle, a color, a symbol, or a scent. When your space reflects expansion, your mind starts to believe in it too. And number 5, behavioral experiments. Rewire by doing the opposite, because the core principle of cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is to change the behavior and the brain will follow. Sometimes the best way to disrupt a cycle is to shock your system into a new possibility. So if you always overgive in relationships, try pulling back. If you tend to stay silent, try expressing yourself more when you normally wouldn't. And if you chase emotionally unavailable people, try falling back and just observing. Because this creates a prediction error in your brain. And when the brain can't predict what happens next, it starts to change the pattern. For years, I believed I was a victim of my circumstances until I realized everything I had experienced in my life were for reasons I just hadn't figured out yet. And the people that did me wrong were there to provide lessons that eventually guided me to the highest version of myself I am today. But I had to figure out those patterns that I was stuck in and those signs that I had been blatantly missing. All those signs I had been begging for, they were always there. I just didn't know how to read them. But now I do, and now you do too. And if you want to go deeper with what life is showing you, I created a free Healing My Trauma journal to help you unpack the signs, patterns, and emotional cycles that keep repeating in your life and start rewiring your story from a place of awareness and power. Download it now. It's free, and the link is in the description so you can start connecting the dots in your own healing journey. And let me know in the comments if you see the signs. And share this with someone who needs it. And subscribe to Trauma Free so you can change your mind and change your life. And until next time, take care.